which we will explain to you later what the process is for that, is open to company members only. So please do not vote if you're not a company member. Okay, thank you. The first task is always the task that none of us like to do, but over this year we've lost a lot of dear friends and colleagues, and there are so many of them, it's very difficult to mention them all. So what I intend to do now, if you're all happy to do this, is to have a general 1-minute silence in respect for all our friends and colleagues who we've lost this year. Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you very much. We'll go to item 2 on the agenda, which is my opening remarks. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the people sat around this table for the hard work they've done to bring this AGM to you all virtually. I think it's been quite a stressful week for Joe and Vicky and Sam. It's a completely new concept, obviously. We've had lots of Zoom meetings on a smaller number, but to try and bring this to you and to also have the ability to vote has also made it difficult. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everybody for that. I also like to thank the board. We now have a full contingency of board members. Unfortunately, one of the people who we lost in January of this year was Charlie Childs from our board, who in the period of time that he'd been there had made a significant impact. So for a period of time, well, completely lost his sense and common sense and his input into us. We had we had one less board member, but we now have a full contingency of board members. They won't be able to speak to you because they're on mute, and you maybe not be able to see them, but I am going to just read the names out just to make sure you're aware of the names and who they are, and just to say thank you to them because they've really worked hard over this last few months to make the right decisions to keep the sport and the association on the right pathway. First of all, Jill Parker, who is our president, everybody knows her. Dick Livingstone, who's been on board for quite some time now, who is also chair of a finance and audit committee. Priya Samuel is a new member of the board, an independent board member. Mark Quartermain, who is our senior independent board member, who's been there some while. Steve Kermish is another new independent board member. Simon Grew, Susie Hughes, Susie and Tony, obviously elected directors. Dee Pattison, unfortunately, is not with us today, but she is another independent board member. Tom Purcell, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Don Parker, who's been with us probably a couple of weeks and has hit the ground running. So thanks to Don for being part of the board as well. So just a quick thank you very much to all those board members for everything that they've done over the last few months. We move on to apologies for absence. There are, we're not going to read out the names, but the people that have written in to apologise, they will be recorded in the minutes. Now we'll move on to item number 3, which is the report of the Standing Order Committee, and I would like to pass it over to David Hockney. Okay.
Bear with me. Just all the stuff at the top.
We just need to find David and unmute
Yes,
him.
we know he's there somewhere.
I'm here. But, I was
Get there,
muted.
David.
Right, good morning, all. I've really got nothing further really to add to the SOC report already published. With regard to the standing orders, we did attempt to adapt them for this unprecedented online AGM. But I think you can see that many of the normal procedures of a physical AGM are just not possible within the constraints of a Zoom AGM. So I think we just have to take a pragmatic view of this, and in these exceptional circumstances, allow the AGM to take place with the minimum of interaction with our members. So enjoy the meeting, but that's my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Thank you for the work you've done in presenting the report to us from the standing orders. The next item is the adoption of the standing orders. Do we have a proposer? Karen, yeah. I know. I think they're supposed to. I think they're supposed to show, are they, or Joe?
No, I think we're just.
No. Okay, yeah. We have got them. So we've got the proposer, Karen Tong, and the seconder, Tony Catt. So we have those. Now, Joe is going to put on your screen, this is the process for voting. So it's the electronic polling vote. Joe will send this through. I think hopefully you can see it on your screen now. There is a for, an against, and an abstention. You are asked if you could tick either of those, for, against, or abstaining. When Joe gives you the thumbs up, it's all written down here, folks. When Joe gives you the thumbs up, then all the votes have been received, and we should, within 30 seconds, that's what it says, 30 seconds, we should have the result, and Joe will display the outcome. We will obviously bear with everybody, making sure that that's, if there's anyone that's
Just
not,
a reminder, this is for company members only.
yeah, company members, anyone that's not got this on the screen, please let us know some way or other.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So this is for
I'm
an
just sharing
adoption
that vote, and
of the standing orders.
so that's 100% for.
Okay, so that's 100% for, so the standing orders, adoption of standing orders has been accepted. We move on to item 4 in the agenda, which is the minutes of the annual general meeting. Any comments on accuracy and amendments have been sent through beforehand, so we'd like to move straight on to approving them.
If you could vote now, it should be on your screen.
The same principle, please, for voting to approve them. Is that everybody?
No, not yet.
I've got it, yeah, I can see the
Few more.
numbers now, I'm with it now. 2.
Okay, so everybody, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. So we quickly move on to item 5, which is the financial report and financial audit accounts. I'm happy to hand this over to Doug Livingstone, who is the chairman of our Finance and Audit Committee. Thank you, Doug. Over to you.
Hello. Hopefully people can hear me from relatively sunny Portishead down in the southwest. I'm not in charge of my own slide, so it's going to be a bit like that government briefing where the person goes, next slide, please. As Sandra said, I'm been on the board now for 3 years. I play table tennis in the North Herts League, and I chair the Finance and Audit Committee. My background is finance. I'm a chartered accountant, qualified with Deloitte, one of the biggest accountancy firms in the world. we're also very fortunate that Dee Patterson is also a qualified accountant. So we have 2 accountants on the finance committee. And we do check and challenge the executive in the finance committee on the detailed accounts which come to us. As we've said, unfortunately, because of the nature of the meeting, we can't take detailed questions during the meeting. We have had a couple of meeting questions in advance, and any questions can be put on the chat or can be emailed into Joe. I know last year we did answer a couple of questions after the meeting about the detail of some of the accounts, which I know that some of you are very, very interested in, but I think for the vast majority of you, what you're interested in is what's going on at a higher level and how is the organisation doing. One of the questions that has been raised in advance was talking about the budget process and why we had effectively budgeting this year to make a small loss. Ideally, and the questioner gets it exactly right, ideally you would have a balanced budget or a small surplus. And if you have a small surplus year on year, that allows you to do is to build up a reserve. But we are not a bank, and the reason why you have reserves is in case you need them when you have a rainy day. And I think COVID-19 is as rainy a day as anybody could possibly imagine. So we are dipping into our reserves slightly, but we know that we know that the staff are committed to trying to balance the budget over the year if we possibly can. So that's the stance that we're taking. Just looking at our total income over the last few years and also projected into next year, you'll see a couple of notes. We don't include British Para Table Tennis in these figures because while they go through the financial accounts, we don't have any control over how the money is spent or the income that's received. We act for British Para Table Tennis, but it does mean that they're included in the accounts and we have to strip those figures out. The other adjustment that we've made in 17-18, because of the World Team Cup that was held at the Copper Box, we had a lot of income from the ITTF, which then was spent on that competition. And if we include those figures, it kind of distorts it. What you'll see is from 16-17, we've seen a steady decrease in our income, and as we'll explain later, that's almost entirely down to 2 reasons. One is the reduction in Sport England funding, and the second thing is the reduction in sponsorship and marketing income. So the key thing is what are we doing about this? We are looking at how we can attract alternative sponsorship and other income. We're very pleased that we got Mark Bates as a headline sponsor for the national championships on a 5-year contract, which is great. And we're also looking at support from non-traditional sports funders. So, for example, health and housing, because we know where table tennis is a massive benefit to people's well-being. So we are looking at that. The other issue, obviously, we need to look at our cost base and to spend money where we have to, and to get as much, bang for our buck as we possibly can. And that is to spending as much money as we can to support clubs and leagues so that they can assist themselves. So making them as efficient and as effective as possible. The good news is, again, we'll look at this in detail a little bit later, that the funding for 2021 is not looking as bad as it might do. Sport England have been pretty quick off the mark in terms of support for sports. So if we look at the core funding that we do get from Sport England, which is on the next slide, Joe. Great. This is the majority of our funding, and we get a 4-year award from Sport England And as you can see, from 1617 to 1920, that funding went down quite significantly, from 3.25 million to 2 million. The reasons for that are twofold. Partly it's government spending, what we call exchequer funding, is reducing, but probably the biggest impact is the fact that a large chunk of that funding comes from the National Lottery. Fewer people are playing the National Lottery, so there's a smaller pot to be divvied out. And secondly is that the National Lottery is trying to fund more things. It's funding more sports and more activities. So it's a competitive market, and we know that going forward, while we've had the funding for 2021, fortunately is matching what we got in 1920, because of obviously the amount that the government is having to spend on supporting the economy. We expect that going forward from 2021 onwards, government funding is probably likely to be going downwards rather than upwards. Plus, we also have Brexit on the horizon, and I don't think anybody really knows quite what's going to happen. So if we look at a breakdown, as we said, Sport England grants make up about 60% of our income. The next biggest is affiliation fees, which is 13%, which is the one that we generally have a bit more control over. We then have competitions and what we call TTE income. That's income from coaching courses, camps, sales of equipment, sales of loop tables in particular. The competitions, most of that, in fact, more than the income we get is then spent on competitions, and most of the income, what's in the income generated section, is directly matched by expenditure. So we can't get income from coaching courses without actually running the coaching courses. So that's why the affiliation fees is so important, because it's the one bit of income that we have a lot of choice over what we spend. A lot of the Sport England money is ring-fenced to specific activity, and if we don't run that activity, we don't get the income, and we only get the income if we spend on that activity. So it's quite difficult to use that elsewhere. In terms of the expenditure then, I think the one comment I would make on this, you'll see membership at 5% looks a very low figure. That's just our direct support for a couple of staff that deal with membership queries and collecting membership fees, and the direct costs of TT leagues and Sport 80. So it's quite a lot of the thing that's described as back office is still supporting our membership. So communications, for example, is included in back office. Insurance costs, communications, as I said. So a lot of that is still supporting membership. But you can see the vast majority of our expenditure is directly on table tennis development, talent development, competitions, and then mass participation, which is the loop and ping programs, which we get specific funding for. Obviously, in 1920, the impact of coronavirus was relatively limited because of the lockdown only really coming at the end of restrictions coming in February and early March. There were some cancellations of events, but we'll see a much bigger impact, I think, on the accounts in 2021. As we can see here, what we were trying to do is to significantly increase the proportion of activity and the proportion of our expenditure which is directly linked to grassroots table tennis, and we've been very successful doing that. As you can see, from 13-14 up to 18-19. Due to the reduction in Sport England funding in 1920 and some extent the impact of coronavirus in 2021, that is tailing off a little bit. but we will try and prioritise activity which supports clubs, leagues and players as much as possibly can. And we are constantly looking for efficiencies in our back office, in our IT, to ensure that we're spending money where it really makes a difference in terms of table tennis.
Okay. We've got a couple of questions, Doug. The first one's from Ian that Sarah's going to answer. What do you anticipate the loss of income for affiliation fees to be in 2021, as our feedback so far suggests it could be up to 5% of members?
Thank you for the question. We don't have a crystal ball. We have been working with other governing bodies to understand the impact that they have seen, and certainly governing bodies that have had their membership renewal periods over the summer have seen as much as a 50% drop in membership whilst we were in lockdown. As we start to come out of lockdown, and now that we have a roadmap for activity to recommence, we obviously hope it won't be anywhere near that much. We are, however, predicting it could be as much as 30%. Retention, i.e. keeping our existing members, is obviously the priority, because like with all membership bodies, we have an annual churn rate of somewhere between sort of just north of 15, between 15 and 20% every year, which means basically even when our membership figures are static, we tend to lose 15 to 20% of our membership every year as a base, but we gain 15 to 20%. Obviously, we don't know what gaining is going to look like, so we have to at least accept that we're likely to lose between 15 and 20%, and say we are predicting it could be as much as 30% or more. But I think whilst we have the roadmap now for getting back to play, we encourage, obviously, everybody to rejoin as quickly as they can.
Thank you. We have one more question, which I'm not sure we'll be able to answer as Simon's not with us. So if we can't answer it, we'll try and get the answer by the end of the session, or we will post it, which is, this is related to funding for juniors. And in reality, how many players is this funding actually supported by, and how much?
Are we talking about the external funding that we managed to get?
Yeah.
Bear with me, but I think it's currently about 34 or 35 players in the squads are receiving some form of external funding that we have helped them apply for and backed their application or put them forward for nomination.
Thank you. If it's any different, we will come back. Doug, have you got anything else that you'd like to say? I think he's gone on mute, so no. Okay, we now need to approve the accounts, please. So the poll should come up in front of you.
You need a proposer and a seconder. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
We need to meet the proposer and the seconder. So the proposer and seconder for the acceptance of the financial report and audited accounts. Don Parker is the proposer, Karen Tong the seconder, and as Joe said, here comes the ability to vote, please.
Thank you very much. And that's the majority, thank you. And there is also, oh, yeah, go on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you to everybody for that. We now move on to item 6, which is the reappointment of the auditors. Doug, did Doug want to put these forward to speak about it, or just?
I think we just reappoint.
Just reappoint. Okay, so we have Doug as the proposer for the reappointment of Hayes McIntyre, and the seconder, and I apologise here because when I was speaking about the board I called Susie Hughes. She is no longer Susie Hughes, of course, she's Susie Venner, so Susie Venner, apologies Susie. Susie is the seconder. Again, can we have a vote please on, we're going through the vote on appointment of the Hayes McIntyre.
Perfect, thank you. Again, we have a majority. Thank you very much.
We move on to the reappointment of the Standing Orders Committee. As stated in the Standing Orders report, Neil Lemillier is standing down by rotation and has indicated his willingness to be reappointed. So are we happy to reappoint Neil? And everyone else, presumably, on that Standing Orders Committee?
Thank you. Again, a majority. Thank you very much.
So do we have a list of those?
We do indeed.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
just bear with me. I'm still sharing.
So we move on to the final part before any other business, the approval of the honorary appointments and reappointments of the vice presidents. We have so here we have the vice presidents who are up for renewal after a 3-year term. You want to do these separate, Joe?
No, I've got them on.
They're all in one.
Same.
All in one, okay. And then we have the approval of the honorary appointments, please.
Back to the previous slide.
The other slide. Okay, which is the honorary life members, Stuart Sherlock, Keith Thomas, Vice President Simon Grew, Board Member Brian Jackson, 4 officials, Jan Johns for her work with vets, John Mapletuffer, who's working in the East Midlands and the Grantham College, and Gary Wood, British League. Can we have acceptance, please, of all the honorary appointments? We have a proposer, Neil Hereford, and a seconder, Alan Ransom, and you're all busy voting away anyway.
And majority again. Thank you
Again,
very
a
much.
majority. So,
Unanimous, yes.
thank you, everybody. So with 2 minutes to spare, with the annual general meeting, we have any other business? And
Ken, I'm
Oh,
sorry
Ken,
you haven't
yeah.
received it.
we're just going through any questions on the chat or any comments on the chat that we need to bring forward. I would just like to say to Sarah, have you got any other business? Sarah? No?
No.
No.
That's the AGM.
Okay. So, we're happy to close the AGM. Thank you, everybody, for being here for that time. But you can't even go and have a cup of tea because we are moving straight on to the annual conference. So, welcome everybody to Table Tennis England annual conference. Are we doing the after?
We'll do
Mine
video.
first. Mine first.
We
Okay.
can do the video.
Would you do the video first
Yeah.
then, please? Yeah.
We all love it. We're all table tennis nerds from all walks of life.
It's really fun and exciting, and we do new things every week.
think it is fun, and it's there for everybody, no matter what your skill.
I think the words ping pong for disabled people should get out worldwide.
So he is gripped with Alzheimer's, but he just comes to life. He's just comfortable when he's playing this great game. He's just back in a time zone when he was in full flow as a younger man.
My life after my brain injuries was a life of no hope. Then when I came to the table tennis parlour, I had a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to go out and do something, and it was better than any therapy the hospital could give me.
It does, it absolutely transforms their lives, and something so little like that. Yeah, they might go away and feel that pain again in the shoulder, but they'll be looking forward to the next Tuesday session, and when they come they'll be like, I'm ready for ping pong this week.
I've really enjoyed doing the Zoom TT Kids live sessions every week on a Tuesday during lockdown, and it's been real fun practicing my skills at home. But I can't wait to get back to my club and have a match with my friends.
We now go on to the annual review. I'd like to take this time to thank the staff for the annual review, which has been distributed digitally. Thank the members for sending in their questions, and thank the staff for the answers which were published. Unfortunately, due to the logistics of the Zoom on the annual conference and the important presentations we want to make, we are particularly with going back to table tennis, return to play. We're not going to take any more questions today. If you have any further questions on the annual review, you can put them on the chat facility here, or you can continue to send them in and they will be addressed by the relevant members of staff. But we've concentrated on what we think is the most important thing at this period of time, is our ready to return back to playing. So for that, I'm going to hand over to Greg, who's going to give you the presentation. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Sandra. Good morning, everyone. Just going to start the presentation for the Ready to Return session. For those that haven't seen one of our webinars previously, there is a lot more detailed information obviously available online, as well as on previous webinar videos. We've ran 2 this week on the new guidance, so those are available. It's going to be slightly quicker today. We've got half an hour instead of the hour we had previously, so for more detailed information, do go and visit those after today. So just to intro into what we're going to try and cover, we'll just quickly update on the 5-stage approach that we have, the recent updates from the government announcement on Thursday, and some of the support that's available to clubs and leagues. And then we will open out for a bit of kind of questions, but obviously any that we aren't able to get to, we will send some, we are producing a Q&A sheet to go through after today. So the 5-stage process, which we set out fairly early in lockdown, stage 1 has been about playing outdoors, which is obviously introduced quite a few weeks ago now, but no indoor play. We were in that for a long time, it feels, and we thought we were nearly coming out of it at one point, and on the 4th of July, but that got pushed back until the 25th. So the stage 2 is where we are moving into on the 25th of July, is about limited club activity. Stage 3 goes in towards preparing for localized competition, so predominantly local league based competition. Stage 4 is when local league competition will resume. We've said at the moment, we advise that that's not until the earliest of September the 1st. And stage 5 is when the national competition structure starts to start again. So in terms of stage 2, there's a small overview there of what stage 2 involves. And the reason for advising that competitive play isn't started just yet is really just to make sure that a healthy and injury-free return for the game and for participants to come back. We know from the player survey we did, which 1,800 of you completed, that over 50% of people are exercising less than they were previously. And obviously the exercise of table tennis is, again, different to perhaps the new exercise that people have found over this period. So it's important that we obviously manage individuals and participants as they come through. So just thought it was useful to recap very slightly on where we were previously. So this was one of the slides from a previous webinar where which we set up because we thought we were going to get the green light to open on the 4th of July. That didn't happen, and there's been a lot of lobbying from Sport England, from UK Active and Sport and Rec Alliance, as well as national governing bodies to look to reopen the indoor sports and fitness sector. So that announcement came. We did get an indication it would be mid-July, and 25th of July. I guess we can kind of say that's just about in their remit of mid-July. So in terms of the latest announcement on Thursday and what that means, it's worth noting that the guidance or clarification of guidance is constantly changing. We learn more and more each day and each hour at the beginning of the process. And this isn't all the guidance. As I said, this is the new areas of guidance since Thursday. If you want more detailed information, then visit the Ready to Return website, part of the website. So the first one here is around balls being washed regularly to minimise risk. For those of you who've been looking on a regular basis, that was previously about using an individual ball that was marked or different coloured balls. That has been changed to being washed regularly to minimise risk. The evidence from UK Active is it's very small risk in terms of the balls. You'd almost be having to hold it for 15 minutes without letting go for there to be much of a risk. So that's the new guidance and has been adopted by the majority of sports. In terms of face coverings, and I know this is often an unclear area, but it's the advice is in the government guidance for community spaces that those not exercising should wear a face covering in enclosed public spaces. A booking system isn't law, but you should ideally have a booking system in place to obviously manage the number of people that are coming into your session, but also to support track and trace. And the new part of this guidance is around to be kept for that information to be kept for 21 days to report to NHS track and trace. Anything after the 21 days then goes back to your normal GDPR compliance. So the lowest bullet point down here is around the training capabilities and how many people you can train with. So previously the advice was around just training with one other person during a session. That has been updated and has been signed off by the CMO and Public Health England around training in bubbles of 6. And I'm sure there'll be more questions around the bubbles of 6, but effectively you can train in those bubbles of 6 over up to 3 tables, obviously a maximum of 2 on each table. There can be some waiting outside the courts. And it's important that a record of those players are kept that are in each bubble. So you can have more than one bubble in your hall. So you may have 2 or 3 bubbles in a hall, but you need to keep a track of who is in each bubble. So if you have player A can play player B for half an hour, and then player A could play player D for half an hour. So they can mix around in that bubble, but not between bubbles. So the other important kind of updates for indoor sports was around ventilation. And there is about 8 or 9 page document on ventilation for those of you that wants to seek out more information, not from us obviously, but from the people who know about ventilation. But it's important that ventilation systems are kept on if you have them. Windows and doors remain open wherever possible, obviously if you haven't got a ventilation system in place. And ideally, again, I know this is restrictive for some venues if you perhaps don't get access, but turning on those ventilation systems and opening any windows and doors at least 15 minutes before player arrival. as mentioned, particularly for those clubs that have their own facilities, there's more information available on our website, and we can obviously talk you through that guidance. Fixing doors open that can be safely left open where feasible. Again, help with airflow, but also to minimise the touch points. Obviously, some doors will need to be left closed for fire emergency procedures, but where possible, leave them open. Again, where possible, put in a one-way system around your venue. That is part of the government guidance for indoor sports facilities. Some of you have been in touch to say that actually that creates more contact points than not having this one-way system. So it is about using your common sense and adapting for each facility. And yeah, every venue is going to be different. So we're welcome to support you in those conversations and how it's best to operate for your particular nuances of your facility. So doubles play is currently not permitted, of course, unless someone from your own household. And that, yeah, clearly we have less control than sports like badminton and tennis in terms of those two people coming in close contact. So it has been ruled out for this calendar year in terms of doubles play, as has the ITTF doubles. Obviously that will be reviewed as government guidance changes. Avoiding music in sessions, that's to avoid shouting essentially, and if players are shouting, there's obviously an increased risk of that virus being transmitted, so avoid music within sessions. Obviously that's linked to gyms that have music often in, but it's also relevant for some clubs, I'm sure. And the bottom one here is around clubs advised to receive in writing confirmation from your facility that they are cleaning in between different hirers. Of course, if they've told you that's your responsibility to do that, then you don't need that. But it doesn't have to be anything formal, just an email to your facility, just asking them to confirm that is the case, and a simple reply, keep a record of that email, and that should suffice. So not expecting you to be able to read all of the detail on here, and the detail is mainly what we've just gone through. But these are some of our facility templates that we have available. So we have 3 available currently for a 1-table facility, a 4, and it's a 9-table facility now. The major change around facilities and spacing of courts is we did have a 10 by 5 metre allowance or a recommendation. We have now reduced that to a 9 by 4.5 allowance. We feel that's safe and manageable within the current guidance. And clearly, again, these are recommendations. We've had people come in touch and say we can only get 8.8. You know, that's fine. But if you start to go much lower than the recommendations, obviously that then becomes more difficult. And please do speak to us and ask questions if you're unsure around your specific measurements that you're hoping to have. It's worth noting that the guidance that we're showing you has been put together, has been signed off by the DCMS and by a health and safety consultant that went through the guidance that we have. So these venue facilities show the number of people in each court, as you can see, and the other key area in terms of number of people, obviously you'll see 4 tables, 8 people on courts. You've got 1 organiser in purple near the table at the entrance point. To obviously register, do hand sanitisation, etc. And we're saying at the moment that we recommend that it's up to 4 additional people, or 50%, sorry, additional people to the number of people you have in the hall. So if you've got 8 people in the hall playing on the tables, you could have another 4 waiting. Obviously that is dependent on your waiting areas and, again, the size of your halls. On a 1-table court, that is, again, depending on your size of your hall, but another 2 people. So in a 1-table venue, you could have 2 people playing and 2 people waiting and an organiser. So just quickly, some other key guidance. Booking systems in place, which we've mentioned before, is really important. Washing and hand sanitising on arrival for all people coming into that hall. Breaks between groups and staggering arrival times for larger groups. It's important, obviously, to minimise the points at which a lot of people may be entering at once. So we're saying a minimum of 10-15 minute breaks between groups. Sweat does not transmit the virus, so that's just one of those myths to kind of quash, I guess. The sweat doesn't transmit the virus, but clearly, if someone's putting their hand on the table, they could have had other transmitted it in other ways. So we're advising obviously not to put wipe sweat on tables, etc. There's lots of other templates available, and what we've done last night actually, or yesterday afternoon, is reconfigured the ready to return section of the website. So now that is all sectioned off. There's dates on the documents before you click in, so you know the date that they have been updated, and you can find each document much more easily. So that should be all ready this morning for you. But there's a risk assessment document with a methods statement also attached. There's the venues of own facilities and the players' code of conduct agreement, which we recommend that you send to all of your players coming in so they are aware of their responsibilities. Just a quick overview of some of the infographics and posters that we have available that you can print out just to remind people when they're in your playing space. And the second one is probably good for your organisers, perhaps have on the back of your store cover just to remind them of the requirements of the session that they're about to kind of take control of. So in terms of what else we know, I hope we've tried to give people as much information as possible on a regular basis, but it's limited information still on mass gatherings. That changes on a regular basis. We recognise there are concerns with returning to school facilities. We are raising that, as I'm sure many other national governing bodies are, with UK Active and Sport England. I know they're having conversations with the Department of Education to try and work with schools as to how best they feel they can keep those venues open for community use. So those concerns are being flagged. In terms of future funding, we have our BTT funding, which I'm sure we can share after today with you all, which can support clubs, leagues and coaches to get back, and there's some funding enabled to re-engage your members. We've also opened a separate pot this week that's specifically able to spend on cleaning and PPE equipment, and that can be used for licensed coaches that are self-employed with up to 60% of their income from table tennis. Sport England have indicated there may be a regeneration fund to top up from the emergency fund which went out, and so we wait to hear more information if that becomes available. Oops. So those are the kind of key guidance we wanted to go through. Notice that there are a few questions in the chat, so happy to take any questions. Joe, is there?
Yeah, the first question is from Michael. The opening up of sports and leisure venues on the 25th of July appears to relate dedicated sports venues only. Is there any information yet about use of multi-purpose venues such as a village or a church hall or community centre? Yeah, so those venues are able now to take sports and fitness activities in them. There was some confusion on the 4th of July the 4th of July statement, which said that community centres could reopen, but there was a clause in that sports and fitness wasn't recommended to start at that date. But then now sports and fitness can take place in those facilities from the 25th. Fantastic. And just a comment from Ian that a good booking app is Team Up, if anybody needs one. Yeah, worth mentioning, we also have the Club Spark app, which clubs can use, Premier Clubs, associate clubs and leagues can use to take bookings online as well. But yeah, I'm sure there's lots of others that may be able to be used too. There's a couple of questions related to doubles from Neil and Dave. Has it been rolled out for the whole year, and where's the reference related to this? So yeah, we can forward it through. There's a reference to it on the ready to return sections, but so at the moment it's obviously been, no doubles play is allowed, and we're saying in national and sanctioned competitions that is the case at the moment for the season. But yeah, it's the end of the calendar year.
Oh, calendar year.
Sorry, I mean,
Sorry.
yeah. So yeah, end of the calendar year. Obviously that affects team events in that once you start, if they are able to start, and you probably can't then reintroduce it after January. But yeah, we'll obviously continue to review that, particularly for those national competitions and national championships. And Jim's asked about the slides being available. Yes, we'll post the AGM slides on the website with the minutes as well, so everybody will have the information, but all Greg's information is already on the website for you. And a message from Marcus and also David related to insurance, hot topic. I had a good 2-hour meeting on insurance yesterday.
It would affect if it's related to COVID. If you're playing and you're not adhering to the guidance, or you have been playing, then yes, insurance would be affected. But no insurance would cover COVID now. Our insurance, we have insured, it includes other infectious diseases, but COVID isn't insured on any insurance policy.
Just to add, Joe, there are some things that you can obviously do to mitigate risk in terms of if there are any cases of COVID. So the risk assessment is your kind of pre-play option. Make sure you do your risk assessment and your method statement before you start those sessions, and that's a good way of reassuring your facility also that you are able to safely get back up and playing again. And there is a cleaning checklist on the ready to return section of the website. There's a template for that. So obviously that's important to then be able to prove that you have done it, have done that cleaning. So similar to you see in a restaurant, you go to the toilets and there's a checklist to prove that they're checking and cleaning the toilets. A similar cleaning checklist for your facility is definitely worthwhile now in case of any cases of COVID, and you can go back and prove that you have been doing the cleaning as much as possible to keep your facility safe.
John Stalker has asked, are matches still going ahead to have an umpire?
So we haven't got to the point of the guidance around competitive play yet. So we will, that's part of stage 3. So there is a local league kind of guidance document available for stage 3. Hasn't gone into the detail of umpires. So we will be looking at that over the next couple of weeks, really, as now we've got the stage 2 guidance to hopefully where we expect it to stay for until certainly the 25th and beyond. So we will look into that. And yeah, local league at the moment, we're advising that it doesn't start any time before 1st of September. There is every possibility that local league will be able to recommence though this calendar year, but we'll keep people updated with our guidance on that.
That's all the questions that we
Can
have. Are there any more?
Can I just come in on that one? Neil Amelia's question on doubles for local leagues. What's our advice on that?
Yeah, so our advice is that doubles isn't included in those competitions. That's our recommendation. Certainly in this calendar year, we have got a separate guidance document for leagues, which does talk about you could run your season in 2 blocks and run a season if we get to that point in the first half of the year up to Christmas for those clubs that are able to restart and those individuals that do feel ready to do so. And then you could run a second half of a new season as such from January. And for those, hopefully more individuals are confident of coming back to their club. Doubles might be possible by then. And so you could run your season in 2 halves. There's lots of options available to you. But yeah, we were obviously keen to support you with those conversations as well.
Good. Any more questions?
Ken's, I think he gave
Ken about insurance, but
it's not a question.
No,
it's a statement.
Just one other question that we've had a lot in the other couple of webinars is around this bubble of 6. And I think we talked for about half an hour about bubbles of 6 on yesterday's webinar. So it's good there's not too many questions today. But at the moment, our understanding is that the coach is part of a bubble of 6. So if you in there, therefore it's 5 players plus 1 coach. We are seeking clarification still around particularly junior players and whether you can have a coach oversee a larger group of players. So we are seeking clarification on that from DCMS and Sport England. So we'll obviously feed that one back as soon as we can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Greg. And I'd like to say a really big thank you to Greg and his team, because they've done a marvellous job on keeping on top of the regulations, the criteria for COVID, and making sure that all our membership is aware of what they can and cannot do on a daily basis. So sometimes on a nightly basis as well. So just a big thank you to you and your team for everything. You've done a really splendid job. Thank you. So we now move on to membership categories. There's been a lot of work done prior to... Oh, sorry, yes, of course. Yeah, we did have one more thing. We had a question from Diane on the annual report and the questions that came up, that have come up for the annual review, rather. So, yes, all Q&As that are sent in over the next week will be answered and will be published. Once we get back to the office being open, because the office isn't opened at the moment, despite the fact that we're all here. It's not officially opened, then there will be some consideration for printing the annual review to send out to those members that haven't got email or computer facilities. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else we don't need to answer? No. Okay, so now we move on to membership categories. And there is a lot of work prior to COVID. There's been an awful lot of work done on looking at the membership and looking at the different categories. We all know that there is a lot of people that play table tennis that we are not captured in a membership way. So this was where it became a priority as far as the board was concerned, and the executive staff have spent a lot of time dealing with this. I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who is going to do a short summary of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sandra. Yes, I mean, this has come up over the last couple of years, and what we did is try to look at our membership structure with a blank piece of paper, rather than just tweak around the edges, always accepting that what we may come up with is something that actually does reflect large parts of the current structure, because if it's not broken, don't fix it. The biggest challenge we had is that on the active lives data that comes out from Sport England tells us that almost 500,000 people regularly play table tennis. And when we balance that against our 25,000 player members, there's clearly a very large group of people who are regular table tennis participants. So really the objective of the review is twofold. One, we would obviously like to bring as many of those people into the fold as possible. Clearly, a lot of them don't play local league table tennis. It doesn't work for them, it doesn't fit for them, or it's not the way they like to enjoy their regular playing. So we need to find a way to capture those people, because they can benefit from the work we do. This isn't just about trying to extract money from them, as much as we would like to be able to broaden the base of paying membership. It's also about how do we actually really support and help these people on their table tennis journey, at whatever stage they are, so that they continue to be regular participants of table tennis. And how can we help them in what that looks like? We also know there's a very large number of social players. So phase 2, which will come later in the year, will be an additional category, which is really aimed at social play. So we're going to show you a very short video, which is also on our website. So I'm sure many of you will have already seen it, because we've started the communication plan around the changes to the membership category. But what we'll do is we'll show the short video. It's only just over a minute. I'm really hoping that the sound does work on this one. And then we can take any questions if there are any.
Welcome to the Table Tennis
Let's see if we can try again.
England family. Here's a guide to membership categories. Supporter membership is for those who don't or no longer play table tennis. It's for volunteers, parents, coaches, officials and fans of the sport. It's free and was formerly covered by associate membership. If you play table tennis in a club but do not play in leagues or competitions, then club play membership is for you. It's free for the 2021 season and includes public liability insurance. This was previously called associate membership. Compete membership is for those who play competitive table tennis in local leagues or one-star national events. It includes UK-wide personal accident insurance and means you can appear on rankings lists, formerly known as player membership. Finally, if you compete in events such as British League or two-star national events, then Compete Plus membership gives you worldwide personal accident cover, as well as making you eligible for national selection. This was previously called a player licence. For a full list of the benefits of memberships and how your fees support our sport, visit tabletennisengland.co.uk/membership. Welcome to the table.
Great, thank you. I hope that worked. Sorry, we had to play it a second time. We did a full run through of all the technology only a couple of days ago, and everything worked. So it's always the technology demons that then cause you problems on the day. Right. We've just got a couple of questions coming through. Was it new proposed club members category?
Michael has asked, read the new proposed club members category. What efforts have been made to contact existing groups about this? I contacted 3 local groups when the original propositions were published. No one knew about these propositions. Although one group had registered all players as associate members and also included some league players who had paid membership fees. The groups were all self-sufficient and couldn't see why they needed to link to the national governing body.
Yeah, this is, we have been consulting and ensuring that the information is out with the clubs, and we've been looking at actually a number of incentives, because it is really important for the clubs to help us with the club play category. It is not a compulsory category at all. It's not going to be compulsory either for individuals or clubs to introduce, but what we are trying to do is help expand the membership offer in a more relevant way. We believe there is somewhere close to another 10 to 15,000 of people who play week in, week out in the club environment. And clubs certainly benefit from the work we do as a national governing body, and therefore those players benefit from the work we do as a national governing body. Previously, they were able to benefit just from being associate members. It is a free category this year, but we will look to be introducing a small payment that comes in to help the work that we do to support clubs. In terms of the wider group, we are in active discussions with people like U3A and some of the other more independent organisations like the Armed Forces Table Tennis Association, to see how, well, first of all, to explain our membership categories and try to work with them to see how we can make them relevant for their groups as much as we can.
Thank you. Any other questions on memberships? No, we just had one more question for Greg about bubbles and coaches, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so the question was, can a coach coach more than one bubble? At the moment, that is the area we are seeking clarification on. So we know an organiser can oversee a series of bubbles in a hall, bubbles of 6. And at the moment, the guidance is around a coach is part of a bubble. So if they're obviously coming into closer contact, obviously with social distancing, that coach is part of a bubble of 6, so 5 players, 1 coach. However, we are seeking clarification on that for under 18 players, because there is an indication that a coach may be able to oversee a bigger group for under 18 players. So we will update that in the guidance as soon as we have that confirmed.
There's another one coming from Tim. On the Isle of Wight, many play table tennis in the winter. We have a summer league, and some people who just play social table tennis want to play in the summer league. Can they then play a proportionate fee just for the summer?
Thank you. So when we went out to start looking at everything with a blank sheet of paper, we tried to capture as many of the suggestions and requests that we have heard over the last few years. And one of them has been around summer league membership. Another one has been around trial membership. At this point in time, we've looked at everything, whether we could have rolling memberships, whether we could have a subscription so that you pay a monthly subscription membership. All of those things are still under active consideration for phase 2. They became too complicated to try and introduce all in one go. We were going to introduce this year a trial membership, so available for new members who could join, I think, for an initial 3-month period before deciding to upgrade. We've held back from introducing that this year just because there's so many unknowns around this whole year, but we will look to bring that in next year. So that is a way, certainly for new people taking out a membership for the first time, perhaps around a summer league, that they could look to take it out. As I say, we're in phase 2. We've got a number of other things we are still going to actively look at, and one of them would be the possibility of a monthly subscription membership option, which could cover some of the eventualities. But none of these things are straightforward and simple, but we are keeping them under active consideration.
I don't think we've got any more on membership, so.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Just before we move on to the impact report, let's just double check. No other questions for Greg or for Sarah on return to play or membership. Okay. Yep. So we move on to the impact report, and again, we're going to hand over to Sarah to talk us through this.
Okay. Initially, we had hoped to be presenting a review of Mission 2025, which we launched in 2015 as our 10-year strategy. 2020 is obviously halfway through that 10 years, and it would have made perfect sense to present a refined version. And a lot of work started with the board and the senior leadership team over 6 to 8 months ago, and quite a lot of work had been completed before lockdown. We then took the decision that now is not the time to relaunch a strategy, because what we need to do is sit back and understand the full impact of the coronavirus crisis on society, on individuals, on sport, on activity, on funding, on membership numbers. So now is not the right time to actually commit to a longer term revised strategy. So we've put that piece of work on hold. We presented this to National Council a few weeks ago, and we will be coming out with a series of questions and possibly some webinars as well to look at aspects of our strategy that we had done some work on to where we felt we were heading in the right direction for the next 5 years, but just to make sure we can sense check before we lock those in and understand better the impact of the coronavirus crisis on everybody. So instead, what we are doing is going to show you again a short video about something called an impact report. This piece of work started earlier this year as a way of pulling together case studies and initially the baseline statistics and the impact statistics that we had for this funding cycle. So we go back to April 2017, because of course we would be coming right into the middle now of having to do our funding submission to Sport England for the next 4-year cycle. As Doug mentioned briefly, that has all changed, and Sport England have actually awarded us a 5th year of funding and postponed the funding application process by 12 months for the last 3 years of the next cycle. So we've taken the opportunity to actually look at this piece of work and see how can we actually broaden it and ensure that it is available to demonstrate the impact of the work we do in a wider sense, not just looking at the funding and how we're demonstrating to Sport England the impact of their funding. So it's not finished, which is why we haven't published the link yet, but we're going to show you this short video. What we will do is next week send you the link to the version currently. It's still undergoing a little bit of work, and but when it does go live and it is fully published, it will be a living document. So it is something that we will commit to updating regularly, and it'll be a real repository for case studies and an opportunity for members, for schools, for anyone interested, for potential partners, to really, in an interactive website-based way, understand the impact of the work we do. So we'll just show you this short video, which actually was created about a month ago, because we showed this to Sport England at our end of year review.
We have pulled together this impact report to showcase insight into the impact that we have across the whole organisation. We wanted to create somewhere that was central, that was easily accessible for both internal and external purposes. So we've gone through a lengthy process of collating everything that we know that we've got, and we have broken down our insight and knowledge and achievements into several key sections, which you can see throughout this impact report. We start with the headline figures, which relates to Mission 2025, our 10-year strategy from 2015. And this section outlines any key updates based around this strategy and the 4 key areas that we work in. So by expanding the different sections, you can see some updates on key things that have been happening. Everything in this impact report is since April 2017, so in the current funding cycle. The second section focuses around our work, which provides key updates or achievements from different departments and projects across the whole organisation. So you can see here, for example, we've got a clubs and leagues section, which includes information about club and volunteer conferences, Club Spark platform, club membership, and the club matters. And we've got the different departments from across the whole organisation, so that everything is featured within this section. The third section has perhaps got the most content in it. So this section, which we've called Detailed Insight, presents all the insight impact documents based around specific categories, which you can see on the screen here. So there are 12 different categories that relate to different key outcomes and key target demographic groups that we work with. So all you need to do is hover and click. And this will bring up a new page based on that specific category. And if you scroll down, you can see all of the insight that we've got relating to this specific category. To view, click on the document and it will bring up the document for you to have a look at. There will be documents that sit across multiple of these categories because they relate to one or more of these different categories. So you may see the same document in a few different categories. And the last section is our partnership section, which aims to give you a visual representation of the wide range of partners, sponsors and funders that we work with. And you can just see the wide range of people that we work with across the whole organisation. This impact report will be a continuous working document, so it's something we can update and add to over time. The next steps are to present this at our Sport England end of year review this week. And beyond that, we hope to be able to utilise it to showcase our impact to our funders, partners internally and other groups that may be interested in the work that we do.
Thank you. Sport England were really impressed and said we're the only governing body that's chosen to present the impact of the work we do in this way, and they thought it was very good. And it's actually given us ideas about how perhaps we could present the strategy work, so that we've got the strategy being presented in this sort of way, and that way we can track the impact in a more clear fashion than perhaps we've been able to do of late. Anyway, as I said, we will send out the link to it. Please feel free to have a play around, dive into the areas that you are most interested in. I'd encourage you all to look at the areas you're not that interested in, and actually try to get a better understanding of the breadth of the work we are doing. Again, if anyone's got any questions when it comes out, feel free to email us in the office and we will answer them for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions, Joe?
There's only one from David relating to club play members. Club play members need to be, if they're playing in a club, obviously to be covered by insurance.
Yeah, so going back to that one, David, if I use a Premier Club as an example, a Premier Club will have the public liability insurance by virtue of being a Premier Club. Individual players playing within that club will only benefit themselves from the public liability insurance if they have a membership, either a club play membership or obviously those that then play in league or competition, a compete membership.
That's it, there are no more questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. There are a few comments coming through with real positive take on the impact report. So thank you to everybody for that. Fully agree that it shows the work that's being done, that we can forward out to and work with any partners that we have now or any potential partners for the future, and aligning it to our strategy as well. So thank you to everybody, thank you to the staff for that, and thank you to the board as well for overseeing the whole of the strategy and the impact report. Are there any more questions before I move on to almost our final part, which is the acknowledgement of the Honours Awards? If we've got anyone else who wants to put any questions in the chat box, please do so now, and I'll do the I'll go through the honours, and then we can come back to it if necessary, because we are a little bit ahead of time. Okay, so acknowledgement of honours and awards. We've already agreed the honorary life members and the new vice presidents, which have been put forward. So we have Stuart Sherlock, who for services as a technical official, for honorary life member, Keith Thomas for his service as treasurer for the association for a number of years. Vice President Simon Grew is a board member, has been with us for 3 or 4, maybe over 4 years now, and is a mastermind with figures and concepts, and is also on the ETTU ranking committee. Brian Jackson for his technical officials. Jan Johns as chair of Vets with 2 T's, works incredibly hard for our bringing forward any competitions and working with the vets, and working in association with Susie and ourselves for that group of people that competitively want to play at on a regular basis. John Mapletoft, East Midlands coach for over 50 years, a coach in the East Midlands for over 50 years, and was the mastermind behind the Grantham College, which became the first ever residential table tennis centre, where those that wanted to carry on playing at a reasonably high level and have a considerable amount of opportunity to practice, but could also do their academia as well. And that facility has gone from strength to strength. And Gary Woods, who is British League, and Gary Woods, who is British League, full stop, all the way through. British League keeps us all on track. So there are honorary life members and vice presidents we put forward. So now we move on to the other honours, which is the Keith Pontin President's Memorial Award, which has been awarded to Alan Ransom, OBE, for his long and outstanding service to Table Tennis England and Commonwealth Table Tennis Federation. I think if we would be at way past 12 o'clock if we were going to go through all Alan's achievements. So there is a booklet coming out with all these recipients in, and you'll be able to see the content of Alan's involvement, achievements, and dedication to English table tennis, international table tennis, Commonwealth table tennis. So he's going to receive the Keith Pontin Presidential Memorial Award. We then move on to the Malcolm Scott Award, which is for outstanding service to Table Tennis England, which we awarded to Jo Key Blythe for her service in creating TT League. She came to us, I don't know when, maybe February, March time, and hit the road running, and brought to us the facility for the TT Leagues. I mean, she just never stopped from that point onwards, and that's never stopped since that point. So, and has been frustrated all week because of the technology here. We move on to the Ivor Montague Award, which has been given to Dave Golden for his services to County Championships Committee. To the Leslie Forrest Memorial Award, which has been awarded to John Spears for his service to the County Championships in Hertfordshire. AK Vincent OBE Award, which is the staff award for exceptional service as a staff member. This has been awarded to Jonathan Driscoll for his service in developing and promoting TT Kids. And I don't think any of us can deny the impact that TT Kids has had on our membership, on our development programme, on our clubs, and on working with our schools. It's an incredible asset to us, and Jonathan has been very central to the promoting of TT Kids. Move on to the Victor Barner Award. And for his performance, this is awarded to Liam Pitchford for his performance in the Team World Cup. And as we know, Liam's just gone on from strength to strength with his performances and his high position in the world ranking now, and his win against the world #1 over in Qatar. He continues to be dedicated to his play, practice and opportunities at performance level. Johnny Leach, MBE, for the most improved England Player of the Year, has gone to Tom Jarvis for his performance in World Tours and International Championships. And finally, we have the Mike Watts Achievements Award, which is a retrospective award on the players that have improved the most on the ranking list, and that goes to Scarlett Anders and Joseph Cox. Sorry, Joseph Cox and Scarlett Anders. So congratulations to all those recipients. It is very disappointing that we're not able to present these today. For me, it's really a highlight of when we come together as a group at the AGM and the annual conference. But we will identify a time when we can get to award as many of them as possible together, because I think that that's really an important concept that we need to try and keep. If we can't, we will do them. We will do some of them separately, but we do want to try and make as much of these people, these recipients receiving their award as we possibly can. I think, unless anybody's got any other business, have we got any questions? Okay, we have.
Yeah,
a couple of texts in here.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions related to the centenary and what our plans are.
Yeah, thank you for that. Again, I wish we were slightly further along than we are right now, and we would have been if we hadn't had the disruption of the last 4 to 6 months. There are plans afoot for the centenary. We have a new marketing manager who's joined us in the last 6 weeks, and I've already briefed her, and we've got some exciting ideas. At the moment, we're looking at a bit of a threefold approach, which will include a coffee table book, so really delving into the archives and producing a pictorial history of 100 years of English table tennis. We obviously hope to be able to stage some sort of a gala dinner and link that to as many people and clubs and international friends as possible. But obviously we will need to look at seeing how affordable that is in the current circumstances. But we will certainly do some sort of a gala dinner. And the last strand underpinning all this will be a series of campaigns that will look to engage the community, the current table tennis community, the wider community. I see a suggestion there about some sort of film footage. I'm sure we'll create a whole load of content to be able to be used for everybody to be able to use to engage their own local communities. What I'd also like to do is underpin that with a fundraising campaign so that we can help put a fund together that we can use to support many aspects of table tennis. As many of you will know, we already have 2 funds. The Ivan Montague Fund that helps young players and the Tom Blum Fund that helps officials. I would love to create another fund that we can use ourselves to help clubs or leagues or other activity. So we are working on the plan, and I hope that in the coming months we have a working group put together, which includes Sandra, myself, Susie, Jill and Don Parker, off the top of my head, and Mike Smith. And hopefully in the coming months, now that we have Lucy on board as our new marketing manager as well, we'll be able to start to pull the strands together and move it along further. A quick mention, thank you to Diane Webb, obviously as chairman of the Archives Committee, who is working closely with Colin Clement and Paul Stimpson already, and they've been starting to plot and plan the book over the last, gosh, probably 8 to 12 months already. They've been starting the planning of that. So work is underway, and watch this space for more news.
There's just one more question from Tim relating to the cost for TT leagues. This was on the Q&A and has been answered on the Q&A in detail of development costs and also ongoing costs. So that question is on the Q&A if you'd like to refer to that. Is it any more
Anything
questions?
else? No.
Just one on website at the bottom there. Could new items be published in the news section in the first instance? Otherwise, they are difficult to find.
Want to talk about the website?
I think they are, as you say, they do go into the news section initially, but I think it only accommodates 6 at the moment and then moves on. We are obviously in the process of developing a new website that should make certainly searching items much easier in the future.
Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you for your questions and for your comments. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for bearing with us with our few technical issues. As we said, the office is not. Sorry. The office is not actually officially open, so we are social distancing in a different environment than we would be normally. That may have also affected the Wi-Fi that's available to us, but I hope you think that we've tried to do our best to bring the AGM and the conference to you all, to the membership, in very difficult circumstances. I wish you all continued safety and good health, and normally, to quote Estin, as he did on the National Council, normally we would say safe journey home, but you're all at home presumably, so keep safe, keep well, and thank you all very much for your time, and we really do look forward to seeing you as soon as we possibly can in the 2021 season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.